away from where the checkpoint was. And they led me out to the courtyard behind the SBU building, and that's when things got really rough. What happened first was they pulled a hat over my eyes, then went through all of my pockets, took everything I had out of my pockets, took my coat off of me, threatened to make me get on my knees, didn't end up making me get on my knees. And then they taped my hands behind my back and threatened to shoot me a couple of times. The whole procedure seemed like its purpose was to intimidate me as much as possible. So I was led down the stairs into the basement of the SBU with my hands tied behind my back and blindfolded. And I was thrown down onto the floor of the cell and made to sat in a corner. And then eventually, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 people came in and started beating me up on the floor. And I rolled over and tried to protect myself, and they were kicking me and punching me in the ribs and hitting me on the head, on the ears with open palms, which is pretty painful and shocking and creates like this effect of a photo flash in your brain, but doesn't actually leave any lasting damage. And I think everything they were trying to do was to hurt me enough to make me scared, but not hurt me bad enough for me to have any lasting damage that they could get blamed for in the future. And I think I kind of recognized that pretty early on and realized that they weren't punching me in the face and they weren't trying to leave any marks on my body. And that was actually very encouraging, and I sort of thought to myself, well, I mean, I can probably take a beating, and if that's as bad as it's going to be, then this isn't going to be so bad after all. But there was also a lot of, I didn't know for sure. Those were the kinds of things that I was telling myself. But they also did.
Autopilot jumping.
free to go. Then I just walked through the
Approaching
barricade with my
Stargate.
little plastic bag and walked past a group of gunmen. I went around the corner in the direction of the hotel and immediately bumped into a crew from the Canadian Broadcasting Company. I walked up to their car and they saw me and they said, "We've been looking for you everywhere. Give us a real quick interview."
We have an exclusive then.
You have a bit of an exclusive, but if you can drive me home, that'd be even more of an exclusive.
We'll do that. So how's the situation?
It's fucked up. Spent 4 days in a basement with like 3 or 4 other guys. They kept bringing in
Autopilot
new people
jumping.
from the street, drunks, like drug people, like people who were high, and then activists and people from other parts of Ukraine. Some people would be.
Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active. Approaching Stargate. Autopilot jumping. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active. Approaching Stargate. Autopilot jumping. Warping to station. Warp drive active. Approaching station. Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted. Autopilot disabled. Waypoint reached.
be held for like a day. Some people will be held for longer.
You probably don't want to stay here much longer.
I don't want to stay in Slavyansk unless I can get an official press accreditation from the mayor. They're apparently giving those out. And then maybe come back and work here now that they know me.
But did you know
maybe it'll be okay.
Did you know what security? Did anybody help secure your release or something?
I have no idea. I literally just got out 5 minutes ago. Allo, Dina. They put me in their car, and their security guard put me in the back of the car and told me to take my glasses off and to put on a beanie hat when we were going through checkpoints. I feel really great to be released, and you know, I wasn't hurt badly. I was just beaten a couple of times, which is bearable, but I feel really bad for the people who are still being held there. Some of them have been held for like 2 weeks. There's a journalist there, just a local guy who wanted to set up a webcam across the street from the building that we were being held in, and that's the reason he was captured. And there was another guy who was from the Euromaidan protests who came to town with some right sector people, and he was roughed up pretty bad, and he's been in there for like about a week now, I think. That's crazy. The mayor said that that I'm still detained. That was the latest thing that he said.
Yeah, last word.
Fucking crazy.
Maybe he's right.
We just don't know.
We just don't know.
I just got off the earnings call with Elon and everyone else at Tesla, and there were some big surprises here. So I just want to break down kind of my biggest takeaways from the Tesla earnings call for 2018 Q4. Let's go. Last quarter, Tesla posted their biggest profit in history, and the big question going into Q4 of 2018 was whether or not they could repeat that. So looking at the data, we see that net income was positive, meaning they had 2 consecutive quarters of profitability, which is something they had never done previously. And this time it was down 55% from the previous quarter, though, to the tune of $139 million. Now, that may be down, but it is still a great story that they were able to remain profitable for 2 quarters, something they had never done before. When you look at revenue, revenue is still growing. This time, more modest 5.9% growth compared to the 70% growth that we saw. Now, this is quarter on quarter, and the reason I look at the data this way is because year on year, it's kind of harder to really picture it because they change so much and they grow so rapidly year on year. It's really important, I think, to just look at the sequential nature of these numbers here. So gross profit is down, but not by much. It's still doing really well. Cost of goods sold is going up, which I don't like, which is something that you might most likely related to the additional purchases for the Model Y and some of the other expenditures they have coming up. Sales, general and administrative, essentially the cost of making sales is going down, which is great. This is largely due to some of the efficiency changes that Tesla made in Q4. And R&D is going up, which I really like because to me, R&D says that they're kind of putting the pedal to the metal there and actually trying to innovate and continue to push beyond their current kind of technical offering. So that was a very quick run through of the financials, and the thing I really wanted to talk about here were the big bombshells that they had on the call, and a lot of them came very early on in Elon's opening remarks. First, Elon said that a big focus, the biggest focus for him right now is to focus on Tesla service, on improving customer service in North America. And the way they plan on doing that is by ramping up their mobile delivery offering. The good thing about this is it doesn't take a whole lot of money. You have cars already, you load them up, you buy the parts, you hire the people, unlike opening a new facility, right? Opening a new service center or something like that. That takes a lot of time, a lot of research, investment in the building, etc. So they can essentially ramp up customer service just by hiring more mobile technicians, and for most people it's actually a better experience anyways. They also said that they're going to preemptively call a tow truck and schedule a loaner vehicle if an accident is detected. I personally would have loved this when my wife hit a pothole recently and blew the side of the tire out. We were stuck on the side of the road in the rain for quite a while. Called Tesla, no answer. Called AAA, they were there in 15 minutes. So it would have been great if something like that existed. So hopefully that comes true. And the other thing they talked about with regards to service was that they would now be stocking all of the parts, all of the common parts and all the common colors at the different service centers. They later in the call alluded to right now they have essentially all those parts sitting at the factory, but they just don't distribute them in advance. And so hopefully using data and kind of looking at predicting where the issues may be and when they might be, they can preemptively send those out so that if somebody has an issue, they can come into the service center, be squared away in 20 to 30 minutes and be on their way. So that's all great news because I know myself and many other people have been talking a lot about Tesla really needing to step it up on the service department. Then, just a couple seconds later, Elon started to talk about the Model Y, something there were a lot of questions about. I didn't expect to hear anything, but here's what we got. First, they've completed the engineering and design of it, meaning we have essentially production vehicles. They already have the tooling going out, is what Elon said. I'm not sure if that means that they are purchased it and it's on its way. Where is it? Well, the current plan, as Elon stated, and as a previous video that I did where I was talking about a leaked document also stated, it is going to be at Gigafactory 1. So the Model Y, as currently as it stands, is going to be produced at Gigafactory 1. Makes a whole lot of sense. If something else pops up, he left it open that they may produce it somewhere else, but it's most likely going to be there. It makes a whole lot of sense, and I think I'm really excited about that because I believe, in addition to where it's going to be made, Elon said that it will have a 76%-ish overlap with the Model 3, which means they already know how to do it pretty well. So that hopefully alludes to them being able to ramp up production on the Model Y much sooner than previously thought. The next big takeaway I had was when Elon answered a question from the Say platform. First off, I think this is a really cool deal where retail investors, that's people like you and me, get to vote with our shares. We get to log into this platform, verify we're a shareholder, and essentially ask questions, and then other people get to vote on them. The biggest ones get answered by Elon and everyone else. So that's incredible to let the retail investors have a voice in a kind of very intelligent way. I love this, and I love that Tesla really took the step there. So, you know, congrats or kudos to you guys for being progressive on that. Now, one of the questions there was about whether or not the Model S and X will get the 2170 battery cells that the Model 3 has. So they're different size cells. They're very similar, but just different enough that they would have to retool some things and kind of refactor some things. And the idea would be that these newer cells with the new chemistry are more energy dense. They can store more energy in essentially the same weight, which is a big deal when you're talking about an already heavy vehicle. Elon said no. Elon said it is not happening. They do not have plans of upgrading the Model S and Model X to the 2170 cell structure, which is a big deal. That actually really took me back. I did not expect to hear that. Then when Elon, when asked about range, or in that same question was like, you know, what kind of range benefit or bump do you think we'll see in the S and X? Elon was kind of quiet. Here, listen to what he said.
If and when will Tesla switch Model S and X to 2170 battery cells? What % range improvement do you expect?
We have no plans to switch S and X to 2170 and can't comment on future product developments.
Okay.
So I don't know. It sounds like they're doing some stuff in this space. They're not changing the cells. They're finding some other way to upgrade the S and X, because he definitely left that open. And now on the website, the badging before, the 75 kilowatt hour versus the 100 kilowatt hour, are completely gone. And that opens up the door for them to innovate on this space without having to worry about kind of the marketing or branding side match what they're doing. So I like the decoupling of that there, and I'm hoping that yields us a 400 plus mile S and X sometime this year being unveiled. Now, some bad news on the consumer side, but good for the company, I guess, the balance sheet, is that it doesn't appear that Tesla will be offering a lease for the Model 3 anytime soon. Deepak and Elon both talked about it, saying, yeah, they do see the benefit to consumers, but the hit that they take on the balance sheet just really isn't possible right now, and not something that they gave a timeline or a clue as to if they'll ever do it. They may, but right now it doesn't appear that that's on the horizon. So if you've been holding out for that, unfortunately it doesn't look like that's going to be coming anytime soon. And lastly, we need to wish a fond farewell to Deepak Ahuja, the Chief Financial Officer for Tesla, currently and previously back in the 2008 timeframe, where he really helped Tesla kind of get on their footing and kind of get things going in the early days, and came in the last year or so to really help them kind of reestablish their foundation financially, and then push to where they've now had 2 profitable quarters in a row. Again, something they've never done before. So thank you, Deepak, to, you know, from everyone that believes in this company and this mission. You know, wish you well in your retirement. And that brings in someone new to the role of Chief Financial Officer. We have Zach Kirkon. Sorry, Zach, if I said that wrong, who's been with Tesla for 9 years, he said, and, you know, very well educated, very smart guy. Seems like he will be able to take on this role. So good for you, Zach. Welcome to the team. I hope to hear from you on the calls in the future. Unfortunately, what this means, though, is that the stock has taken a hit. Right now, as of this recording, it's around 4% down, which is just what happens when a public company has their CFO leave. Because remember, the way the markets work, it's all about the money and the finances and all that. And so when you have the guy in charge of that who's been doing great leave, it doesn't really kind of matter the situation, right? Zach could be perfectly capable, and I'm sure he is, and I know he's going to do a great job, but just the nature of it being Deepak leaving, you know, leaves investors with a cloud of uncertainty, as maybe it should, right? Because you don't know what's to come. So we'll see on that, but you know, I thought that would actually cause a problem with their $920 million bond payment due on March 1st, but they stated that they are able to comfortably settle this and move on. So that's a big deal, because that, I think, was looming in a lot of people's eyes around what's going to happen with Tesla with this. How are they going to do that? The stock would have to rally like extremely, 20-something%. And it's just not going to do that now, especially this is being kind of the last major update before that bond payment's due. So we'll see. Overall, I think it was a good quarter, last quarter for Tesla. Q1 of this year, earlier on, Tesla or Elon stated, he thinks they'll be profitable, but is less certain about it, or at least that's how I perceived it. He seemed less certain than previously, and that has to do with that bond payment, probably, as well as the delay in actually getting vehicles out. One thing that they also said on there, which is interesting, they said that the factory right now is only making cars for China and for Europe, and just the left-hand drive. That is a big deal, because basically the challenge, as Elon put it, is just getting the cars on the boats. Like, it takes a long time. And then when you ship that thing across the Pacific Ocean, or all the way across the United States, then across the Atlantic Ocean, it just takes time. So depending on how quickly they ramp up there, that could affect Q1 profitability. I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't see a profit in Q1, but it was not much of a loss. And so, we'll stay tuned, as always. Thank you guys for joining me. Let me know what you thought about the call, what you thought about these announcements, what you thought about the 2018 results. I think it was a big year for Tesla, one of the most pivotal ones, as they said, and it just sounds like it's going to be a fun ride from here on out. So I hope you'll stick with me. And lastly, don't forget, when you free the data, your mind will follow. I'll see you back in the next one.
Okay, now we're at the meat of it. It's time to shape the metal. This is the pattern for my breastplate, but it is not my breastplate. This is a flat sheet, which means it only bends in a single direction. That means it's a simple curve. And every single part of a suit of armor is a compound curve. That means it has to be stretched and shrunk and shaped to fit my body. And Terry is about to show me the rudiments of how to move metal so that it conforms to my physical form. Okay. Terry, we have this flat piece of aluminum, a future breastplate in potentia, and it's all simple curves, and a breastplate is compound curves, right?
Yeah,
Curving in multiple planes. How does this turn from a flat sheet of metal into a breastplate?
Okay, in the traditional way, they used to beat this thing over the stakes. It's called a stake.
Okay.
And it's got that shape in it, and that's the shape you want to achieve.
And this is specifically made for shaping metal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I've got various different sizes and shapes that depend on what curve you want to put into the piece.
Well, and I look around here and I see dozens and dozens of different horns and balls and different things.
Sometimes you use different hammers as well. But for stretching this stuff, see what I'm going to do.
All right, Terry, so I see fire. What are you about to do to this?
Well, it depends on how quick you're making a piece. If I'm working on films and they want like Scalper, for instance, 106 armors in 3 months.
Yeah.
And you have to find various shortcuts to do it. And for beating the actual shapes into this, if you anneal it.
That's to soften it.
Yeah, you heat it up. It's a heat process, basically. It alters the molecular structure of the metal. It can be steel or it can be brass or whatever. With aluminium, there's no change in the colour of the metal.
Oh, right, like in steel you make it brown or blue and you get properties based on that.
Or if it goes to red, you know it's red hot, or it can go white hot before it starts to melt. But with aluminium,
no color.
There's no colour change, so you don't know it. And if you go too far, it just melts.
Okay, that's bad.
And I found out, and I believe you can do it with soap as well. I found magic marker works well. So if you put a magic marker on it and then heat it up, and you heat it until that just disappears.
That turns out to be the perfect temperature.
Yeah.
Oh, and so this makes it more ductile. This makes it more plastic, so that beating it and stretching it is easier.
Yeah, and actually, once you're getting that shape into it and beating it, it actually work hardens back to its original state.
Oh,
So
fabulous.
it doesn't alter the strength of it.
Right, right. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not many people know that.
That's.
So it's, you just done that there. And you try and keep the heat as even as you can all the way through. That's it.
I love efficiencies like that. That is really, really cool.
If we take that and try and bend it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really stiff.
Now just bend the corner.
All right. Oh my God, it's like clay.
It almost goes like lead.
Oh, yeah, it really does. That's really cool.
Well, enough you do it in steel, it's the opposite way around.
Right, the quenching makes it harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I do with this, I actually use a rubber mallet.
Okay.
Because what happens with the rubber mallet if you whack it really hard, and again, it's not tapping it. And you notice I'm not holding the hammer.
Yeah.
If
You're not holding it rigidly.
No, I'm literally holding it between two fingers, and I'm flicking it.
You're letting it thwack.
Yeah, and it's to make that little crack. It's like what you're really doing is you're not going there, you're actually going there.
You're going through the
it's a bit like a karate blow. You know, when they break blocks in half, that's speed.
Or a pool
you're
cue, you're shooting through the ball.
Exactly. You're going through it, and that's what you kind of get. So what's going to happen now is that's going to hit that, that's going to go on there, and that will then form that shape.
Right.
Yeah.
And since that's a compound curve, that's what you'll get out of the form.
Yeah. So if I start on this end, I'm going to do this side, and I'll let you do that.
Oh, okay. Well, the difference will be clear.
When you're hammering stuff like this, you're hitting one spot, you're flicking all the time, and the hammer is landing dead flat. It's not doing that, it's not doing that. It's going dead flat on there. And you keep it in one spot, you move the metal, not the hammer.
Oh!
Yeah. You may slightly adjust it a bit, but invariably you're hitting one spot. And I don't suggest you try this, but not without practice anyway. But you can actually.
Right. So you're moving. The metal is the moving object, and the hammer is just constantly staying.
And I find the harder the crack and the faster the crack, the better it is. It's like a car body stamped out on big presses. If you brought that press down really slow, so it doesn't buckle up. It's the speed of it and the force of it that makes it. It doesn't give it time to crease.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So here we go. And each blow overlaps the other one.
Right, right.
So you're moving the metal very fractionally. And you go around the edges first.
Oh, okay.
Because that's where the creases start to happen. As soon as you get a crease, you bash it out. Because otherwise it'll get worse and worse. Eventually it'll fold back on itself and then it gets out of control.
Active.
So you work from the outside in?
Yeah. So it's really just... And you keep smoothing it out as you go.
Wow.
You notice the variation in hammer blows when I'm making the actual shape. I'm really making armour. See, people say to me, "How do you make armour?" It's just a series of dents. It's how you control it, and that's all you're doing really is putting dents in it.
Yeah.
To get the shape.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
And then you do a lighter blow.
Yeah.
Just to iron the dents out to make them form to a nice shape.
That's just smooth it out.
Flicking.
Yeah.
You're doing this, your arm will absolutely kill you.
You'll get too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just almost effortless. Just flicking. You might get a few blisters on your fingers before.
Right.
Till you get used to it. But that's basically that. Almost mirror finish on it.
Yeah, look at that. That's really smooth so
You
quickly.
get smoother than that, but I'll show you that. Bit. I want to have a go at the other side doing that.
All right.
So remember, it's good crack. Keep that hammer in one place. Do you want to try the finger bit?
No, I don't. All right.
Harder.
That?
Yeah.
Wow, it's so plastic. I mean, I'm seeing it move with each one. All right, now
You
I'm
feel
also. It wasn't.
I'll just stop you there because
I'm being
I
too
know,
rigid here.
No, I know it's practice, and it's what you kind of learn. But at the moment, you're holding the hammer wrong because you're kind of holding it like a normal hammer, and that's why you're getting slightly out of control with it.
Ah, okay.
Your arm doesn't work properly. So when you hold it there, it's literally those two fingers in your thumb, and that way it just hits that.
Okay.
So if I do it, you can see it.
Yeah.
And it's just, and you get really fast at it. I remember I was working on AI, artificial intelligence, and one of the guys in the workshop there that was doing something else, he came over and he said, "Christ," he said, "You're like a machine with no off button." And the other important thing is when you move the metal, don't move it too suddenly. Keep it really. In fact, I often find that because I'm holding that and just doing the action like that, this hand usually aches more. You get more aching
because
in that.
It's super precise
because
holding.
you're holding that really like a mole grip, like a clamp, and you're just moving the metal very slightly. So when you're hitting it, I do it slowly, in slow motion. The hammer is landing in the same place, and you're moving the metal that much. Each blow overlapping the other. And that's what slowly forms the shape. But it's important that when you hold it like this, the hammer's not landing properly. You can't make it straight unless you move the whole arm.
Yeah.
Then you can do it straight. If you flick it, it's automatically landing straight every time. I can tell by the sound that it's instantly better.
The feel in my forearm is so different.
Yeah.
It's so much better than just the first.
So basically what we do is we continue with that all the way through.
All the way around.
Yeah, so we'll just carry on doing it.
All right.
And it's also making sure with this hand it's really gripping hard.
Yeah.
And you're actually pushing this down.
Right.
That's why this arm aches more than this one.
Right.
You're actually pushing that down. And you've got to make sure that the point of that is touching that.
Yeah.
If the point of that hits
Right,
that.
so it's not bouncing.
That's why it's easier to move the metal than it is the hammer. Otherwise you start going into different shapes.
Okay.
If you try and do that, you'll have to do it. If you try and do that, moving the hammer.
They're all over the place.
Sorry, it's habit, I can't not do it.
Yeah.
So if I keep the metal still and try and do it.
Right.
You just finish up with a load of dents.
Yeah.
And then start working in here a bit further. Now you've got the strength coming here.
Yeah.
You can start going in a bit further.
Okay.
Until it, the other thing to practice is what we call hammer control. And it's when you hit in a certain spot, and again you're flicking, so you're not moving your arm at all. You're just there. In fact, if you put your elbow in and tuck it in, it makes it even more solid.
Yeah.
And it's about hitting it in the same place each time.
Yeah.
And if you do it with that,
Wow.
it's all about hammer control. So when you're doing that, each blow is overlapping, you're just moving the metal. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to try locking my elbow.
Again, always keeping that. The reason it's doing that is because you're slightly moving the metal off.
Right.
And you're leaving the gap underneath, and that's creating that dent.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep it right there. That's
Right, look at that.
Yeah. The metal's always got me in contact. Pressure on that arm, pushing it down, is really quite considerable.
Oh, it's significant. And also, you're having this mental image, you're keeping this mental image of these three relationships all at once. It's that spatial awareness.
Yeah, you get there, mate. It's good. A really heavy gauge steel, as per the original armour, which is a lot thicker and a lot obviously harder.
Yeah.
I actually talk to the metal as well. I tell it, I'm Terry English, you're just a piece of metal, you'll do what I want you to do. We've got to a stage now where we've almost got the rough shape, which is almost beginning to fit. It
Look at that.
needs tweaking a bit here and there. Needs tucking in. But what we're going to do now is mark the centre line which I've got there.
Okay.
And transfer that to the outside. I can see the lines, so I do that. See the lines, so I do that. Just join those two up. You can do that with a ruler. And because the breastplate is going to be slightly peaked at the front, so it's not a conform shape all the way through, it slightly peaks here. So now we're going to work on the mallet. And what we're doing now is we're using this edge.
Oh, okay, because, right, it has different curves on this one.
And we're just doing it slightly above that edge, and what we're going to do is to force this back. We're bringing it out, but forcing it back.
Okay.
And so it's the same thing, but it's the reverse of what I've been saying.
Right.
This time you lift it away from the metal. From the
and you're hitting it away from the metal.
Yeah.
So you're not actually...
Well, the contact is there.
Right.
But the hammer's actually hitting there as well, and what it's doing is bending it over.
Right. But you're not hitting it on the line.
Yeah, you're following that line through. That's where the actual hammer blow is.
All right.
There.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But then you're easing it out that way. So you're stretching this bit. You're finishing up with this shape that's beginning to do that.
Yeah, look at that. I totally see that.
So if you take in that one.
All right.
So you're also making that disappear into that shape. So that becomes a slightly more curved, then it goes slightly.
Right, right.
So you just ease that up. And that, you're getting there. But no, you've done great, mate. It's really good. Wow. I'll just take this out a little bit here.
Okay.
So you can now see you've got a curve there. That just goes.
It's a little more proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tucking in.
Wow. It's your intuition for the metal and how it moves is astounding to watch.
What we're going to do now is we're going to put this centre line in.
Okay, where does that happen?
Which is raised again, and that's a totally different process.
Okay.
So if we go over the vise, we can...
Let's do it.
I'll show you how to do that.
Okay.
All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to put the crease down the centre of the breastplate.
Okay.
They didn't all have it, but in this case it does. And what I use is basically that. Now that you might recognise.
It's a wood splitter.
Yeah. Well, it's such good quality steel because it's an early one, it's an old one.
Right.
And I do have different shaped ones. You notice it's got a slight radius on it.
Yeah, and it's very smooth.
Yeah, and it's not sharp, otherwise you cut through the metal.
Yeah.
All you want to do is to dent it. So what we do is clamp that in the vise, quite tight. And then, again, with the rubber mallet, you line that up on there.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And you just give it a tap. Wow. Move it along a little bit, tap it. So the next one, you just want to keep it straight.
Yeah.
You kind of feel the line of what I've just done. Just slide it along a little bit. I'll put it back where it was.
All right.
And move it along. And as you go along, you lessen the blows. It disappears about here. So you make it softer, softer, softer.
Oh.
That's all right.
That was
That's basically the principle of it.
Yeah.
Moving it along a bit. You see how it's going. Wow. Yeah, it helps if you keep a rhythm going.
Yeah.
You notice I'm tapping it.
Yeah.
It's funny, you know, you see things in films and stuff, it makes me laugh. And if you look at a blacksmith or a swordsmith, what they're doing is that they've got the blade. Do a quick demo, a bit of leather or two. And they're hitting it. And you'll notice that they do a blow, then they'll go bang, bang, bang on the anvil. Then they'll hit it again.
A rhythm.
And there's a reason for it. It's because you get into the rhythm of it, and then you take it off. But you're also clearing the slag away from it. On films, they just go bang, bang. And that's why they don't make very good saw blades on films. And then we can transfer it to a smaller version of that, just to ease those little dents out. And this time you're actually going off the edge. You're not hitting that. You're hitting there. Again, you're just tapping it out. You can see you're beginning to get this ridge.
Yeah, it's a really graceful. Yeah.
And the idea of it is because of a lance or a sword or an arrow, it's all about shapes and making the arrow skid off.
Okay.
It also gives it strength.
Oh, of course it does. It gives it an extra. Right.
Yeah. So if you bend that there, it's quite easy to bend. If you bend it there, it's actually quite stiff.
Right.
Yeah. So it creates that ridge, which is interesting.
It's hard to believe that it's a series of dents when it looks so smooth.
And again, some of these, especially on Gothic armours, are more accentuated.
Yeah.
And I'll use this hammer for that. This is probably dated around. It's probably about 1600.
What?
Somewhere thereabouts.
Look at that.
It's almost identical one to
It's so beautiful. So it's clearly not.
Yeah, 'cause it's all about balance.
It's
If you've
all
got,
right.
If you've got a long shaft, it upsets the balance of that. So again, you put that on there, line it up.
Yeah.
And then with this part, you just dress this down. So you're forcing this away from the chisel. You're hitting it at that angle.
Yeah.
What it does is, when you turn it round, you do the same on the side. You'll finish up with quite a sharp ridge. Just taking it down just so. This is all about using the weight of the hammer.
Right.
On Gothic armours, which were very fluted, same as Maximilian armour, you're familiar with Maximilian, there are hundreds and hundreds of flutes.
Yeah.
It's all put in the same way. So if I put a line through
Warp
there,
drive active.
it's going to be like this. You can chisel it from the back. You can also have to come around this way. You can actually judge that. You look at that, you look at that, you put it there. And you can actually. On Gothic ones, the line's always altered as well.
Docking permission
You've got this one
requested.
which followed that, which is quite a simple trick by putting your finger there and just doing that. And,
I love that trick.
but this one is usually
Docking request
there.
accepted.
so you get these lovely
Right.
organic sort of shapes. Okay, don't go too deep in it. Start doing the other side. Keep it in the same place.
The sound is great.
What we're going to do now, this all needs refining, of course, but eventually, you know, that gets to fit. So now what we're going to do is demonstrate an edge.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you how it was done in the old days. It's done in what they call a mitre swaging block.
Okay.
And you're looking at forcing the metal into that. So it's got to be fairly accurate. Right. And you're only overlapping it by about that much. And all you're doing is putting a dent in it. You go all the way along with that. But it creates that roughly.
Right.
And then you reverse it over. And then you tap this with this edge tight
Up
into
against
there.
it.
Again, the pressure on this hand.
Right. The left hand is doing all
It's
the
really
work.
holding it solid, otherwise it'll slip off. And you just gently tap that till you get it upright. Then you start hitting it downwards. So you know, there. And you finish up.
Oh, look at that. Oh, shall I try?
There we go, yeah.
Okay.
There's a very, it's all about accuracy and keeping the hammer in one place. It's got to be in that groove.
Yeah.
So if you put a line there, that's
there
where
you
the
go.
edge of the metal wants to be.
Okay.
A little bit more than that, actually.
Copy that.
Down there.
All right.
So in time, you get used to these things and you just do it automatically. And then you literally just tapping it that way. And do it even, keep going along backwards and forwards.
Look at that. That's a place to start.
Yeah, and basically what that does, it stops the metal, obviously for comfort and everything, it stops the metal cutting into you.
Yeah,
Just
and it adds strength at
and
the
it adds strength.
at
Because
the
if you bend that,
Right.
And try and bend that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah.
Perfect strength. When I'm working on original armours, sometimes I'll actually do it like that.
Yeah.
And then put the wire in the whole thing, because there's a subtle difference in the look of it. But for film armour, you have to find quicker ways of doing it.
Yeah.
And there's a machine that they invented that puts this in.
Oh.
Amongst other things.
Let's see how that works.
That's over here.
Okay.
So
this is the machine that makes it easier?
Yeah, it's a lot faster, and you can be a lot more accurate with it as well.
Oh, I see.
So you're setting it at the same place. You know, we overlap that on the groove.
Yeah.
We're overlapping that on this top wheel.
Okay.
And it's only about that much. You can mark them. I mean, in my early days, I used to actually draw a line around it and follow the line.
Mm-hmm.
But after years and years, you don't need to. And you put it in there.
Yeah.
You do exactly the same thing. This becomes the hammer.
Right.
And this becomes the stake. Yeah. And you do that, and then you just close it down. And you can see that's just creating that.
Oh, yeah.
Dent.
Perfect.
So when you wheel it along, it continues that all the way through.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that...
And that creates the edge.
That's
and
easier.
You see it's much different. Right, so you're going to do that now.
All right.
You get it right in the centre, yeah.
Right in the centre of the second.
Then just clamp it down. There is good.
All right.
And then gently go through, keeping it even.
Oh, that's amazing.
Clever, isn't it?
Oh.
But these machines really, a lot of engineers and metal workers have them, because even things like oil drums, you know, the big oil drums they use for the oil.
Yeah.
All the edges of those are done on very similar machines.
Oh, of course.
They're called a swaging machine, or ginny wheel, as they're known.
That is lovely. So is it time to try it on this piece?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do the real thing now. So we come over here. Okay, so we do the same thing again, but now we're going to do it on a curve on the breastplate. Yeah.
Okay.
So we do this, judge that distance. If you're happy, you're doing a line for this edge to follow.
Right.
It does make it a lot neater. I say, through experience, I just did it. But it's literally just feeding that through. Keeping that distance the same.
All right.
Just want that back again. Take it right clear. Place the metal and just take it down. Just take your time, follow the line.
I love this tool.
Then it's back to
Now it's time to hammer
taking it over. Okay, so now we're going to take this edge over. And because it's on a curve this time, not straight, I'm going to use the curved part of the hammer.
Oh, okay.
Which fits that.
Right.
If you use that one, obviously you're going to make a load of dents in it. And again, it's just keeping that really tight in all the time. This really is just, and there again, on this one, I'm actually doing the same as we're doing with flicking the hammer. And we just... Then you can finish it off with the flat bit of the hammer, just by easing that down. Good, coming up, right there.
All right.
Over to you.
Here we go.
This should be fun.
Ooh, yeah, you do have to be a contortionist.
Yep.
The way you've showed me how to creep up on it is really lovely.
That's it.
And then I come in here.
And then you just come in here with the flat part of the hammer.
Flat part.
And this one, you literally just let almost almost the weight of the hammer.
Right. Just to bring it that last little distance.
Otherwise you'll flatten it.
Right, right.
Yes. So it's fairly gentle.
This hand is killing me right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you get more pain in that hand than you do that one. That's what I say, we get those muscles from. It is literally that hammering.
Derry, this feels legitimate. Wow. Holy
then
cow.
you just do the same thing around there. And that just, then, as I say, that just gives you that lovely edge.
Yeah,
when you're fighting or whatever you're doing.
And it's not going to cut into
exactly.
me. That is really cool. So that's one piece of this suit of armor. How many pieces are in a full suit?
In the Arth one I'm making you, there's 120.
I guess we better get started.
I guess so.
All right. Okay, so we've been spending this week making armor in Terry Inglis's shop. And as you know, because it's a one-day build, I prepped and got myself into the right headspace by making my own Excalibur sword. What you don't know is that I brought my Excalibur sword with me to England for the sole purpose of showing it to Terry and getting his feedback on it. So I'm about to go into the shop and reveal to Terry that I have my own Excalibur and see what he has to tell me about my movie prop sword making skills. Okay, Terry, in preparation for coming and making a suit of Excalibur armor, I kind of got obsessed, and I went ahead and made my own Excalibur sword.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I learned how to grind some swords, so I made a movie sword. I made it out of aluminum. So let me show it to you, and I want your honest critique. Here
Okay,
you go.
let me, if I pull this out of here, does it make me King Arthur? Oh, wow. You made this?
I did.
Wow. Well, I must say, Adam, I'm impressed. It's not right, but I'm impressed. It's actually, the proportions are way too small.
Really?
Yeah. But wow, you know, I'll give you 8 out of 10 for it.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
I've just made one for a client.
Oh, really?
Which is pretty close to the original as can get.
So we could compare.
Yeah. So if you want to just perhaps hold that one.
All right.
I'll just if I can find a bit that undoes it. That's the hilt.
Oh.
Which is that's the blade.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow, I see, yes.
It is considerably larger.
Look at the difference. Oh, look at that wrap.
I'm going to show you how to do this.
Yeah? Holy cow. Yeah, I noticed that afterwards that I totally had missed that detail. But the blade is much fatter.
And the pommel you got pretty good. A bit large, but...
May I hold this one?
Of course.
Oh, is this steel?
No, it's aluminum. Wow. We say aluminium.
Aluminium. Oh my gosh, this feels so good.
Do you know, the very first blade I held, I was in London with John Borman, just discussing the armours and stuff, and he showed me the Excalibur blade, and it was made of plexi, like a blue plexi.
Really?
Plastic, yeah. And it's the one that, when you first see it at the round table, you don't really register it, but when King Arthur gets Excalibur out and holds it up, it's actually plastic.
Oh,
it's
wow.
It's made of plexiglass.
Is it for some effect they did on the film?
I don't know. It was because it's something to do with the blue light. It didn't really register as much as I thought it would have done, but yeah, the original blade was made in plexiglass, like a blue plexiglass.
Wow. Oh, it feels so good. So yeah, clearly my proportions are way off.
Yeah, a little bit too slim and thin and a bit weak. Excalibur, yeah. But no, it's doing it from not knowing the original. I think you've done very well, really do.
Thank you.
You can put the ferrules on it, and I'll show you how to do the grip, so you can redo that.
Yeah, I was working off.
You're almost there.
I was working off some pictures, and I did these as two opposing windings, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I can see when I look at other sword reference that I didn't get nearly tight enough with this.
Right. The original wire, actually, was the original swords are made by Wilkinson. I think there were 6 of them that were made. And the original grips were made from what they call regulation wire, which is the wire they use on all the household cavalry swords.
Oh, really?
And it's very hard to get a hold of. Yeah, it's kind of...
Is it silver or is it...
It's silver, yeah. Mm.
And it's a specific gauge and...
Yeah, it's a kind of a twisted wire, but then it has another twist around it. It's a bit hard to explain it, but it's very smooth and fine.
Now, what did you do for the winding here? This looks almost like it's braided.
Yeah. It's actually just twisted wire, but you twist it in opposite directions.
Oh, it's okay.
And then when you put them together, it almost comes out like a sort of a plait effect.
Yeah, it does. It looks like a braid, but it's. I see it's.
Yeah, it's just two separate wires twisted in opposite directions.
Wow.
Anti-clockwise and clockwise. Then you put them together, it becomes like a plait.
God, it's such a lovely piece.
Yeah.
This is the geekiest version ever done of I'll show you mine.
No, it's
if
not.
You
I'll
show me yours.
Well done, mate. Honestly, it's lovely. It's great.
Thank you for showing me the real thing. That's fantastic. All right. Well, my measurements were off all over the place, but Terry gave me an 8 out of 10 for Excalibur, and that's not bad. Of course, I may end up feeling like I need to make another one of these, and that certainly could happen. But now it's time to talk about shaping, because while I've gotten a real amazing download, the fact is I did some shaping before I even left the US. Terry asked me to do some of the work on the gauntlets before I arrived. That is to make all the tiny little plates for all the fingers, some 60 some odd plates, which I made, bent, polished, and attached to leather all in San Francisco. Here's a little bit about how it went down. So first things first, Terry English has asked me to show up in England with some parts already pre-built, specifically the fingers of the gauntlets. These gauntlets for this suit of armor will be made of multiple small plates, roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 per finger, which means across 10 fingers I need to make 60 separate little aluminum plates which will get riveted to strips of leather. This is a lot of busy work. I'm leaving for London tomorrow, so I've got to complete it today. He's also asked me to show up with a bunch of the buckles, and I'm going to prep the leather for those as well. And to begin, I have a drawing of exactly what I need to build and how to lay it out. A drawing by Terry English that includes a little cartoon dude in armor and a note that says, "Good luck, Adam." Honestly, I'm beside myself just seeing that he wrote my name and made this beautiful little drawing. I'm going to hope to do him justice by making a bunch of beautiful finger plates. So I've got to make roughly 60 finger plates for all the fingers. I'm going to make a bunch of extras because it never hurts to have extras. But whenever you're doing a repetitive production like this, it's really important to find whatever efficiencies you can. Because let's say I just took a single piece of aluminum like this and cut out a finger, shaped it, drilled a hole, and then polished it. Let's say that took me 5 minutes to do that. Times 60 finger plates, that's 5 hours of work. Wait, is that correct? Yes, 60, yeah, that's correct. That's 5 hours of work for 60 plates. I think I can do it in less than 2 hours by gaining efficiencies, by cutting out the fingers as strips, polishing those strips together, then ganging them up and cutting them out in large chunks. That'll also get me much more accurate finger plates. They'll be accurate to each other, and thus I won't have to adjust so much for their fitting on the leather strips. The way to think through this is that every single separate operation you do is going to suck up tons of time. And again, times 60, if something takes me 30 seconds, it's going to take me 30 minutes to complete it. I've had commercial jobs that I did years ago with Jamie where we had something like 105 details on this piece, and just to slightly modify them to the artist, to the art director's requirement, took 2 days of someone's labor. This is mission critical kind of stuff. So finding efficiencies is what this build is all about. this is going to be my piece of aluminum. I am using this because it already has a bit of a polish on it. I'm going to increase that polish on this unbroken sheet first. That is the very beginning of this. Here we go. Now, I'm using a brown rouge for this first pass, and this will be totally sufficient for the kind of shine that I need. Remember that when you're polishing with a rouge, it's the rouge that does the polishing, not the actual polishing wheel. So you got to make sure you keep loading your polishing wheel with the rouge, and you'll see that awesome mirror finish I got for very little effort on this piece. Ah, that is awesome! So I'm going to try and do most of this sheet so that I can then cut it out into strips and start heavy production on my finger plates. Okay. Cool. So I'm following Terry's drawing here for the actual width of these, and now I'm going to cut out some strips on my table saw. All right, my strips are cut out. I have way more material than I think I'm going to need, but in order to make sure these are all polished and I don't have to waste a lot of time polishing them later, I'm going to run a last bit of aluminum polish on top of them. A little goes a long way, but as it begins to do its polishing, it brings up material and turns dark and turns your fingers really dark. I use this for polishing some of my sword blades and stuff. Oh, beauty! That's the kind of shine we're looking for. Awesome. How many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These each to be hold on to 14 of these? The answer is yes. Yes, good. Okay. So that is 10, 22, 27. Okay, so you see what I'm doing here. I am ganging up 14 finger sections at a time, and I'm going to be manipulating them all in groups of 14. So I only need to do, I need 27 for each hand, let's say 30 for each hand, so 60 total. I have a total of 84 here. Actually, if I go with 5 of these, I have 70. More than enough. This is my backup then, and I am next going to start making sure these are all really square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 1 That's going to be my pattern. I'm going to cut that, and that will be the pattern against which I make the curve on all the other finger sections. I'd like to point out that this was cold room temperature water when I started, so it was probably about 68 degrees. It's hot bath water. It's like 105 degrees just from dipping in the aluminum after sanding. So all the curves of the finger joints are done. I am now going to buff them just a little bit on my 3M wheel. Time to drill some holes. All right. All the holes are drilled. All the finger chunks are shaped. Now it's time to cut them all out. Yeah, cut it out! Time to cut them out. Need to make some clear marks on a few of these. Fingertips. Whew, that right there is a lot of busy work. These are a little bit close, but they could still work. All right, so each of these matches my pattern, close enough. I'm very excited about that. Oh, I know what you were wondering about. You're looking at this and realizing perhaps that the fingers of a gauntlet are curved. In fact, Mr. Terry English has spec'd that there's a curve, and I've made these all flat. What are we going to do? I've already thought about it, and actually I built a jig. Check this out. This is the Adam Savage finger curling jig. Allow me to demonstrate. I will place each finger plate right there, and I'll bring this down. And there is the gentle curve I was looking for every single finger. Boom! One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is 10 fingers worth of finger plates, plus about 8 extras, plus 3 extra fingertips. These I drilled too close to the edge, which is fine. If I really have to have these, I can, but I think I'm well covered, so I don't think I have to bend those. So now, it's time to cut the leather strips. And because I don't know how Terry is going to construct this glove, I'm going to make them longer than necessary in order to accommodate extra length. I'm going to make them longer to accommodate extra length. Stop the presses. Shit's getting smart over here. I'm just going to include some extra leather in case we need it. That's all I was trying to say. Pinky. Ring. So now it's time to rivet the plates to the leather and then we're done. I'm gonna bring over my anvil for that part.
I cannot set a waypoint to the same location twice.
There we go. That right there, that's a thumb. That looks legit to me. Look at that. Dude, I am totally psyched.
Autopilot engaged. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Oh, right. There's this other question that's been bouncing around in your head, probably, which is, why is he making armor out of aluminum? And the answer is, just in the same way that I made my Strider sword out of aluminum with Peter Lyon at Weta Workshop, I'm interested in the movie version of the thing that I covet. And I want Arthur's armor from Excalibur. The stuff I saw, not real armor. I want the movie armor. I want it lightweight. I want it built for me. Yeah, so these fingers are made of aluminum. There we go. That is the last pinky. We have 1, 2, 2. That's it. 2 full hands worth of finger plates plus extra leather and extra plates in case I screwed something significant up. I'm gonna pack this up and take it with me to England.
Autopilot jumping.
So now it's time to see if my work meets with Terry's approval.
Can't wait to see them. Is that the long one?
Warping to station.
It should say on the back.
Drive active.
That's a ring finger.
Okay, just try me hand. Okay. So it's going to be set. Just bend your knuckles.
Approaching station.
I left a long tail because
Yeah, sure. Well, okay, it works.
It works? Good.
Yeah, cool.
I figured the edges are a little sharp, so I'll hit them on your polishing wheel.
Okay. Yeah, just do those just on the edges on the wire brush. Ideally, they should be more alarms in them, really. But they're good. You know. They're actually what they were like on the film.
Oh, okay.
The original gauntlets, they were twice as many as that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they didn't step out so much when you bend. When you got more alarms, don't get such a bigger gap.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Unless you want to remake them, it's up to you. These are kind of screen accurate.
Docking permission requested.
Because obviously
Docking permission requested.
But yeah, they kind of work.
Docking request
And then we will,
accepted.
when this is all done, there's a strap that goes here. Do these glue to the glove?
Yeah, these are actually riveted to
Autopilot
this.
disabled.
This.
Waypoint
Yeah.
reached.
And then you've got to strap it over just underneath here. These are actually stuck. Originally they were stitched to the glove.
Right,
But
right.
Modern day glues, we stick them. If you want to sew them or something.
Well, I figure we stick them, and then if I feel like throwing a stitch in there, I can.
Okay. Cool, well done.
Awesome. Okay, so
You
is that
never-
the next thing for me to start
It
working on
never
these?
cease to amaze me at all.
Sir.
That's cool. Great.
Try the glove on a minute. Leave it on. Good. Right. Just clench your fist slightly. What's that? Just slightly clench it.
Fist bump.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Hey guys, it's Adam from Tested, and if you watched my TED Talk last year or have heard me speak for any longer than 30 minutes, you know that I'm obsessed with the movie Excalibur. When I was 14, my father took me to see John Borman's Excalibur, and it started a lifelong obsession with armor, particularly the design of the armor in that movie, which turns out to have been designed by master armorer Terry English. And where am I standing right now? I'm in the rolling hills of Cornwall, England, standing on the property of none other than master armorer Terry English, who's going to take me under his wing this week, and together I will help him make me a suit of my dream armor from Excalibur. I can barely wait! Hello, sir, Terry.
Adam.
Such a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
I am such a fan of your work.
That's really weird because that's what I've understood. You're a bit of a fan of my stuff, Excalibur, all that stuff. But the funny thing is, I'm quite a fan of yours.
Music to my ears.
I watched your program and thought, well, what fun these guys have. You know?
Really?
Yeah. I've always admired you a lot.
Amazing. Shall we discuss some armor?
Why don't we do that?
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, come in, please.
All right.
Welcome to the.
There is already something
museum.
in that location.
You and I like to fill our spaces with a similar amount
just
of...
a bit.
Whoa!
Ah, yeah.
Who is this?
That's the elf house armor that I made for Harry Potter film.
Oh my gosh.
I made that and a 10-foot high troll, which I think is the biggest armor ever made.
Oh.
Sadly, the scene was cut, but you do see the troll armor in the last film when it pans through a store. And they're both on display at the Harry Potter Museum.
So much to look at.
It's a bit like that, yeah. So you're here to discuss a suit of armor.
Yes, I want to talk about armor and all things armor. Let's talk about all things armor.
Okay, let's go and have a sit down.
So, Terry, is this correct? This is your very first suit of armor you ever built?
Yeah.
How old were you when you made this?
I was 16. I finally got a job because I wanted to be a commercial artist when I was at school. Eventually I was actually, I did that. But I got this job at a theatrical costumers called L&H Nathan's. They're one of the oldest established costumers at that time.
Yeah, they're still super famous.
Well, they're now Berman's.
Right,
I actually worked for both of them. But I had this little copper leg that really fascinated me, a little miniature leg that I found in a drawer. And I decided I'd try and copy it and finished up making this whole little suit.
A miniature armor leg.
Yeah, just a little leg. And I was just fascinated with it. But before that, I think when I was about 10 years old, I remember Mum and Dad one Christmas took us to a big store called Selfridges.
Mm-hmm.
And they had these little plastic kits of armour.
Yeah.
That was when I was 10, and I remember, I've still got them somewhere. And I remember making those, and I think that kind of triggered off the fascination. But then finding an actual metal leg, I just wanted to make it. And it was kind of through that started me off on the road to where I am now, I guess.
What was it about finding this little articulated armor leg in the drawer that compelled you? What do you think was that?
I think it was just the fascination of the way it moved.
The mechanics.
And being armor and liking that. I always loved the films Ivanhoe and that stuff, So I guess it was always in my blood, and but to actually hold original armour. But at Nathan's, with the armoury, I was really a theatrical metal worker. Some of the first films were 351 Fahrenheit, Dr. Zhivago, Charge of the Light Brigade. I did all the 14 principles on that. But that was mainly badges, buttons, swords, daggers, shields, crowns.
Theatrical versions of these.
Yeah,
right.
I used to make crowns. I was quite specialised in making crowns with the jewels and stuff. But they had an old stock of armour that sort of dated back to Victorian times. But they used to produce this stuff for films and theatre. And they were continually being hired out and getting smashed up. And it was through repairing them that I learned to make them.
Ah, so you started out by resuscitating things that had been dented or broken or hinges gone.
Yeah, but they were theatrical armours. And it was only then that once I started specialising in that, I started to do work
There is
for
already
antique
something in
dealers,
that
collectors, the Tower of London.
So you started getting work repairing real armor.
Exactly. And it's through repairing the real stuff, that's when I really learned how it worked. It's not all riveted together. It's on leathers, it's all different mechanics all together. And it was then when I started to specialise in bespoke, made-to-measure, custom-built armour.
So how long was it? 16, you make this beautiful, beautiful figure. How long was it before you made your first full suit of armour?
That was, when I left Nathan's, I decided to start my own company. In fact, Arthur West, my governor, he said, look, you got to leave here. He said, you're too good. He said,
How old were you?
Then I was about 21, I think.
So you'd been there for 5 or 6 years?
On and off. I actually worked in that time as a commercial artist, which I always wanted to do at school.
Yeah.
And when I finally got a job in commercial art, I didn't like it. So I went back into the armoury.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah, yeah. So I was a sign writer as well. But I oddly say that because it's a combination of the fact that being an artist, I went to art school for a few years as well. And so I am an artist, a painter, if you like, a designer. And that's where the skills come in now with the film, especially with the film stuff, is that I'm able to use my artistic skills in designing and drawing stuff. And
it's not enough just to build it. You have to be able to communicate to the art director and to the director what you're actually going to make.
Yeah, yeah. But it's that combination of skills. And my father was a tailor, bespoke tailor.
That's so cool.
He was actually a cutter, so he cut the patterns.
That's like the hardest part, from what I understand.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of, I learned a lot from that. And then being an artist and various other things I've done. When you put it all together, it makes an armourer.
So you leave and you're about 21, 22. You formed your own company. What was that company doing?
The very first film I worked on my own when I formed the company, which was then called English Armour Hire. It's now English Arms and Armour. The very first film I worked on was with Vanessa Redgrave and Timothy Dalton on Mary Queen of Scots, and I made their breastplates and helmets for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you just started, you opened up a shingle and started making
Yeah,
armor
it kind
for
of just
films.
progressed from there, and then because like you never stop learning.
Yeah.
You're always learning something, and yeah, it's just a progression, and where it's going to go now, I don't know.
So my first exposure to your work was, I was 14, 15 years old when Excalibur, John Borman's film about King Arthur, came out. That armor compelled me to a lifetime obsession of all kinds of armor. I actually collect spacesuits, and I think it's also because I love armor.
Right.
Because these are all ways of protecting ourselves.
Yeah.
From my memory, my recent memory, I watched Excalibur last year. There's a shocking number of full armor suits in that film. How many suits of armor did you make?
Well, it finished up, I made 106 armors for that. Nearly killed me.
I'm getting tired just thinking about it. How long did it take to make 106 suits of armor?
Well, it started off when I met John, like all films, even now. It's a bit like what you do as well. You meet the director, you get a feel of what he wants the film to look like, you read the script, you go through the script, and then you meet the actors that can actually play the part. And all the time you're doing that, you're building a visual image of what that armour should look like.
Right.
And it kind of, so you don't make armour, you build it. It's a creation.
Docking permission requested.
Like
Docking request accepted. Docking
and you take different
requested.
aspects of their look, their face, the way they stand, and you put all that together, and I start to get an idea, and then I'll do the sketches of what I feel it should look like. So having met John and done that, they were talking then about 14 principal armours for the film. And I thought,
for the main characters.
Yeah.
Right.
And I thought, great, no problem. And I had 3 months to do it. And I said, yeah, fine, do them. Then they came back a week or so later, or a few days later, and said, well, look, a bit wrong on that. The first half of the film is very dark and primeval and very... I went, oh, wow, really? Yeah. So we need another 14 suits for that. I went, okay, fine.
And those are, just the difference between those is really marked, because the principal characters, their armor is very symmetrical and beautiful, but the darker stuff is asymmetrical, and it's bigger shoulders, it's the pig face.
Well, John said to me, kind of sparked it off visually. So I say it's all a building thing. And he said, I want them to look like American footballers with these big shoulders and stuff. And
how accurate do you look to get? I mean, because King Arthur's supposedly from the 6th century, right? But
yeah.
I mean, clearly, Borman and you were taking from all sorts of different periods. What was your jumping off point? Does he tell you, I like this kind of armor, I don't like that kind of armor?
Yeah, kind of. What we did, because there was a lovely guy, Tony Pratt, who was the production designer. And him and John went to the Tower of London, spent an afternoon there looking at original armours with sketch pads and stuff to get various ideas and blah, blah, blah. And it kind of all just progressed from there. You know, me and Tony got together and we did sketches. I've got a bundle of them here, the original ones. And it just kind of happened from that. But the first half of the film was to be very menacing, powerful.
Yeah.
I looked at things like stag beetles. I still do. I look at nature. I could look at a twig and see a shape, and that would be a horn.
Yeah.
I think many artists do things like that. Salvador Dali was a prime example. And often when I've done a design and it's all agreed, and once I start making it, I'll look at it and I'll change it. Because I think, no, that'd be better if that did that. So it's very much an organic building thing. And that's what creates the magic, hopefully, about what I do.
So in each piece of armor, you're taking a flat sheet of metal and you are hammering it and moving the metal. You are pushing it until it describes the outside of a shape of the body. Who was your mentor in teaching you how to move metal like that?
Well, it was two guys that I more or less everything to, really, and apart from my dear father. But there was Arthur West, who managed the Nathan's Armoury, and there was another guy that his name was George Clifton, and he worked for a company called Chas H. Fox, that was another costumers, but they were mostly repertory company. And he actually made armour, a theatrical armour, and it was him that first showed me how to do logs, how to beat stuff. And
when you say logs, you mean actual tree trunks?
Tree trunks, scoops in them, yeah.
So you don't use an anvil?
No, very rarely. After making horseshoes. I don't do horseshoes. Not often. Yeah, but it's so George and Arthur, my mentor. I mean, they were just wonderful, wonderful people. Really old school, you know. And I just learned so much from them guys. But then when I started getting really into it, having learned what I learned from them, I just took it so much further. And moving metal, you know, it's weird because you can get used to a flat sheet of metal and you get a hammer and you beat it, or pound it, I think you're American, and you beat this metal. But often when you do start beating it, it's not so much about the stretching of the metal to get it, it's also about shrinking it.
Right,
It's a shrinking process as well. And it depends where you land the hammer, how hard you hit it. And when we get into it, you'll notice that when I'm using a hammer, you'll hear the difference in the weight of the blows. It can be very hard.
Yeah.
Then softer to get, because there's no straight curve in a suit of armour. It's all compound curves, yeah. And that's the way it all moves on each other, so there's no gaps. That's the way it all kind of works. And that's the sort of thing that I had to learn for myself, really. But it was, as I say, really, if it wasn't for repairing those old armours in that company, there's probably none of this would have happened.
And so I'm curious about that, because when you're making armor for films, because you're a designer, you are drawing from all of your knowledge of history of armor to deliver characters and personalities in this armor and stories, right? You're helping tell the director's story. But then you also do all this restoration for Tower of London and museums of real pieces of armor from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. When you're touching those pieces of armor, do you feel like you're talking to the original makers?
That's exactly right. You got it in one. If I'm working on an original, it could be a sword. You know, I would repair original swords. It might be a branch missing off of a rapier, or not able to match them. Also age. You would never ever know it's been done. Right. And that's what kind of happens.
Do you feel like you can see, I feel like you learn things about the person that originally hit and set those
because when I'm working on it, it's a piece of armour or a sword or whatever, really. I kind of talk to the person that originally made it. And I say to them, you know, how did this bit go? Am I doing this right? And I actually do that. And I don't know what that means or where that comes from. Or I don't question it. All I know is it happens.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it work.
This tires me just thinking about it. When you made 105 suits of armor for Excalibur,
Approaching
was that the biggest
Stargate.
job you had done up till that point?
I think it's probably the biggest job I've done since.
Was there a moment in production when you got to see a huge crowd of actors wearing your armor?
Well, yeah, it's kind of another story there because I realised I'd taken on so much and just kept saying yes, not appreciating that the time was still
I'm a freelancer. You would always say yes.
Exactly. And so I had this sort of shock went through me. I thought, oh my God, what have I done? And then I decided that, because I'd made one suit before, part of a suit
Autopilot
for
jumping.
some film, I can't remember what it was, Line in Winter, I think it was.
I love that.
Spielberg's
Yeah.
early films. I did all the daggers and swords and stuff. And I did the jousting, there was some jousting scene, I made the armour for that, and I did it in aluminium for some strange reason.
Warping
And it
to
kind of worked.
Stargate. Warp drive active.
And when
That's
I did
nice and light for the actors.
yeah, so when I did Excalibur, because of the time factor, I thought, I'll do it in aluminium. And I thought, yeah, no, do it. So I made the whole lot in aluminium. And that's what I've been doing ever since. It was, it's very light to wear.
Yeah.
It is comparatively easier to make. It's much easier to maintain because although it'll dent a bit easier, it's all much quicker and easier to get them out. But the most important thing is it don't go rusty in the rain.
So all 105 suits for Excalibur were all aluminum.
106.
Aluminium, sorry.
Yeah. But it was funny because when I'd made about 60 of them, we moved the whole workshops out to Ireland and finished up making the rest of it actually on location. And we were, because of the time factor, we were literally following the script. When the armours were being needed, we were literally making them almost a day before.
Oh my goodness.
It was an absolute nightmare. But we did it, and I say we because I had a team of three guys who were with them.
That's it, 4 of you?
Yeah. And it was just me and dear partner at the time. I had Peter Light, a lovely, lovely guy. We were friends from school kids.
Autopilot jumping.
And we did all the finishing and most of the work. And the other guys were doing cutting out, doing rough beating, polishing, stuff like that. And by then I'd had about 60 suits made. And John and Tony Pratt and a couple of other people said,
Warping to Stargate.
could we see
Warp
somebody
drive
dressed
active.
just as a test? And I said, yeah, sure. So I dressed 60 of them. We had Nick Clay on a horse with the Lancelot armour, which was then complete. And we were up on a bank at the studios looking down on this army of knights. And this is the first time I've really used aluminium. And John said, can you all just walk around? So they were walking around, right? And he said, can you start just trotting and running a bit? Fine. He said, could you start crashing into each other? So they start
Approaching
back.
Stargate.
That's when the dents started happening
Yeah.
and bits started falling off. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done? I thought this is not going to last 6 months, it's not going to last 2 weeks. But it did, and it does. And I've never used anything else since.
When you were working on Excalibur originally, were you here in Cornwall?
No, I was in London then.
Oh,
I was
okay.
just outside London, Essex. Well, actually, my first workshop was the original stable for Pergo Palace, which was the Queen Elizabeth I's hunting lodge.
Oh.
It dated back to 1540, I think.
That was your shop.
That was my first
That's a
armoury.
lovely bit of lineage to be making ancient armor.
Yeah,
and
it's like sometimes things just meant to be. I don't know. Things come to me. It's weird, you know. It's just
Autopilot jumping.
good things come. Things that meant to be.
Are you still learning about how to make armor? I've been doing it for 50 years. I feel like there's still challenges and still complications that.
Warping to Stargate.
Not really.
Warp drive
I think I've more or less covered it. Pretty much everything. I mean, I know how to move metal. I was saying about, you know, from a flat sheet, you make a shape, and I said it's about much about shrinking as it is stretching the metal. But also, you often find when you make, especially visors and like Excalibur with the big brows and the horns and the teeth and stuff. When you're making stuff like that, a lot of the time the metal actually does it for you. So although you can whack a big dent in it, making armour is really, people say, oh, how do you make armour? I say, well, it's just a load of dents. And that's where you just put a load of dents in. It's where you put the dent.
Jamie Heineman used to say that we, as model makers, we take large things and make them smaller in precise ways.
Yeah, yeah.
It's similar.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to get to was because we talk about medieval armour, but I also get a great thrill out of doing stuff which is really futuristic.
I recognize
sci-fi.
this. This is from...
That's Alien 3.
Alien 3, that's right. Yeah. Oh, I have pictures of this in my Alien reference folder.
Yeah, it's a bit damaged now, but stuff like that, you know. I did all the Alien arms for the Colonial Marines for Aliens.
Yeah.
Bill Paxton, God bless him. And so I really enjoy doing this stuff because, again, it allows me to use my artistic designing skills.
And so you're doing all these designs and sketches to show the art director, production designer. Right.
Like Mr. Freeze, Federal working with Arnie. Insisted I called him Arnie, Mr. Schwarzenegger. If you see this, good on you, mate. Yeah, we became quite good buddies, and I made the complete freeze for him, and I was out in Hollywood for 6 months on that. It was a nightmare because I made 4 of them. For the stuntmen.
And so when you're making armor like that for Mr. Freeze, you're not just making a suit for Arnold, you have to make it for a stuntman, for stand-ins and backups, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of work. And so seeing it on film, it's not just about sketching it, it's not just about making it. It doesn't come into its own for you until it's been used for its purpose. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. You don't really see it. As I say, you're so busy making it, and you're seeing bits as you make it. But it's not when you actually see it on the actor or artist for real, and you see it moving. And of course the glory is when you see the film, when you actually see the finished result. And then again, it takes me probably 3, 4 times watching a film before I can appreciate it as a film.
Right, because you just keep seeing your work.
Yeah, I'm looking and think, oh, I could have done that better, or that could have been, or I'm hiding behind that rock when that shot was taken. So you never really relax enough to see the film for what it is until about 4 or 5 times, and then you can look at it and think, yeah, it ain't bad, you know, hopefully.
Docking request
totally
accepted.
makes sense. I see you've got the action figure.
Yeah, I got that the other day in London.
It looks like they did a pretty good job.
Not bad, yeah, pretty good.
Now I am hoping. Go ahead.
Again, that came about with was it David Fincher, wasn't it? And they called me up to the studio at Pinewood where they were shooting, and I made a helmet with a totally different visor on it. And he didn't like it, and I didn't either. But so I had a discussion with him. I said, "Well, give me a clue. What do you want?" And he said, "I'm kind of looking at almost Gladiator." As soon as he said that, I got my sketch pad out and I just drew it in front of him.
Right.
So it was like that half sort of Gladiator type look. But they're all armoured heavy on one side, but not on the other, same as Excalibur.
Yeah.
And I actually drew it in front of him and he said, "That's it. I want it." And then I went away and made them. But I think I did 8 of those. I think you see 3 in the film. If you blink, you miss them, don't you?
Now I've come here hoping that you would bestow upon me some of your incredible knowledge in the making of armor. When I was 14, I went and saw Excalibur with my dad. When I was 15, we made a suit of armor for me together out of roofing aluminum, which is like 02 or 010, really thin stuff, pop riveted together. And I mean, it was fully articulate, a full harness, with buckles that I'd salvaged off of luggage.
I hope you got photos after them.
And not a single photo exists. I wore it to class. I wore it to school on Halloween and passed out of heat exhaustion in math class. And when I woke up, they had cut the armor off.